Boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle.
Today, we're taking another look at a small vehicle or playset.
Yeah, there's always some debate on the exact definition of this type of toy.
Meet the Mountain Howitzer. This toy was released in 1984 with all original parts. And it's an artillery piece. A standard bit of military equipment.
But you know what? That's really rare in G.I. Joe.
Some vehicles are loosely based on real ones, like the Vamp is a Jeep or the Rattler is an A10, but they're heavily modified. Others are just pure fantasy, like most of Cobra. A select few, however, are carbon copies of the real thing, like the Sky Striker, that's just a Tomcat, and also the Mountain Howitzer.
And it looks great.
There's some nice detailing on the gun itself and on the front armor. There's some nice play value there too. The wheels move and there's a tow bar so the thing can be pulled by other vehicles. Though the bar is a little long if you ask me, meaning the toy takes up more space than it should on your shelves. I assume this was done so it doesn't tip over due to the heaviness of the gun, but they could have just made the base heavier.
Speaking of the gun, it elevates, but not as much as you would think.
It only goes up and down about 60 degrees, and that's only if you start with it pointing at the ground, which is a mostly useless position, unless it's on the top of a hill or something, I guess. The reason for the lack of movement is the detailing, as it interferes with the elevation. That's right, detailing, something we so often praise on this show, is in this case, in fact, a detriment.
It must be opposite day.
The gun has one more gimmick and it's practically hidden. This also brings us to the accessories it came with. A chamber that holds a shell can pop out and the shell is removable. So you can pretend to load the gun and eject spent shell casings. Of course, the thing doesn't actually shoot, so a kid would have to throw the damn shell themselves.
Yeah, I've got a feeling quite a bit of these got lost in backyards back in the old 80s.
For once, Hasbro seemed to have anticipated this, as the set came with 3 shells, as well as a case to keep them in. It even has molded shells inside. On the one hand, great, more free stuff. On the other hand, more crap to lose.
And we're not even done yet, since there is one more accessory, and it comes in 2 frickin' parts.
They're binoculars that attach to a tripod. More stuff to lose. Plus, the binoculars don't snap in, they sort of glide in loosely, making them even easier to get lost. Though, yes, I must admit, this thing does add a little play value. With all this extra stuff, I'm more inclined to call this a playset rather than a vehicle. And that was the only toy the Mountain Howitzer ever got. Overall, it's a neat little set that can be a lot of fun, but boy is it a pain in the dick to find complete.
With that, let's talk about the character. Mamma mia! Here we go again.
And let's start with the name. Because the term Mountain Howitzer is actually from the earliest American wars, right up to and including the Civil War.
Whoa, I had no idea they had such advanced weapons back then.
Yeah, in reality it was just a smallish cannon. While the name is from the 19th century, the design is basically from the M101 howitzer, first used in the Second World War and still around in various forms today. Looking at the box, the artwork is lovely as usual.
And the box does explain what you should call this set.
It's a battle station. Yeah, there was a subgroup of toys called battle stations, though I'd call it a mobile battle station because of the wheels. The operators depicted are Zap and Recondo, with Zap being the gunner and Recondo the spotter. Yeah, you'd need somebody to spot the enemy and calculate the elevation and direction the gun fires at to make sure you actually hit something. Zap makes sense here, as he is an artillery guy, but Recondo is a jungle trooper, and this is the Mountain Howitzer after all, so I would have picked Alpine.
By the way, this is a very, very impressive gun.
Since, looking at the box, it doesn't seem to have any recoil. Nor does the shell chamber empty automatically, because otherwise Zap's head would be taken clean off in this depiction. The back of the box doesn't really add anything, so we can...
Hey, wait a minute!
Look at the toy on the back! It elevates almost 90 degrees! Yeah, the photos on the back of boxes were usually prototypes, and this one does not have the detailing that hampers the movement. So they made the toy worse after the prototype stage.
That's just a real shame.
As far as other media go, it was featured in a commercial, though not animated, and the focus was more on the action figures. The mountain howitzer didn't appear in the cartoons or comics, as far as I could tell, though there is one funny little coincidence. In the very first issue of the G.I.Joe comic, there's a diagram of the pit, and it shows two artillery pieces that look like the mountain howitzer. Or, to be more precise, they look like the M101 howitzers, since this was a few years before the toy was made. But hey, you could retroactively call these mountain howitzers without any problem. And that was the mountain howitzer. A cool little toy I would recommend, but with the caveat that it can be a pain in the ass to find a complete one.
Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing? Phew! Made it through the entire episode without a single phallic joke.
Boom, 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 boom.